Who hasn't seen The Simpsons?
I don't watch it.
Oh, was you? I was going to say, because I'd hope you'd understand that reference, Andy, because but then I thought, oh, I don't know, is it Andy that hasn't seen The Simpsons? But no, it's Stu.
Yeah, that was why I said it.
You maniac, Stu.
Like, the first 10 seasons you must watch. They are fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. But then after probably about season 13, just sack it off.
All I know is, from the episode I saw the other day, the rest of the day was me going, Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, located entirely in your kitchen. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. I love, my favourite one is Super Nintendo Chalmers, when Ralph calls him that. That's my favourite Simpsons quote ever.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. I seem to scream that for no real reason, but hello anyway. It's Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone's well.
Hi everybody, Matt Guy. Hope you're all keeping safe.
Hello everyone. Let's just scream. Why not?
Why not indeed, gentlemen? Have we recovered from last week's film extravaganza?
I've been into the bit of Ann Summers where they can hurt you. After delving into 8mm and seeing what's on offer.
You understand the section at the back of the shop now, do you?
Yes, yeah. Going on.
Yeah, obviously not a video feature, but I think this is appropriate.
Stu has got the Kama Sutra, the pop-up version, and the front cover of it certainly looks like it's got a pop-up already on there.
Wow. Is that why you're walking with a limp, Stu?
Yeah. Holy crap.
Well, I feel like I'm so well endowed.
I feel like, Stu, you need to take some pictures from that and we'll put it out on the socials. And speaking of the socials, make sure you follow us on Twitter at CageFightingPod. Drop us an email to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Straight into the news this week, fellas. Following in Jeremy Renner's shoes, and he's using the current global sickness to launch a musical career, Vin fucking Diesel has got a song out. However, unlike Jeremy Renner, his song is actually pretty good. I've been quite impressed with it. If you just bear with me, because I've forgotten the title. Feel Like I Do. And I've got to admit,
Feel like I do.
As the kids say, it slaps. It's a good song. I'm well impressed with our own Dominic Toretto.
You know what? When you put this in the group chat, and I was astonished at how good and fun it is, and I must have listened to it at least 20 times already.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be on my usual playlist. Don't get me wrong, but compared to like 30 Seconds from Mars or Russell Crowe or Bruce Willis's musical careers, it's one of the better crossover careers. I've got to be honest. I mean, I know it's only one song old, but.
What is it? Is it rap? Is it pop? What is it?
It's a sort of synthy dance number that I was going to call him Dom, that Vin sort of just talks over in his usual gruff self.
It's what me curious. Because Mark said that he was amazing. He sounds a bit like George Ezra, and you can kind of see it a bit.
I get it. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, to the listeners, check it out. You will be amazed. I'm pretty sure. In other news, Flashpoint is stacking up nicely. So we already know that Keaton and Batfleck are suiting up. But now it's been reported that a third Batman is in line. Christian fucking Bale is coming back. And not only that, we've got the beautiful man mountain that is Henry Cavill coming back as Supes. And Nicolas Cage is finally going to get to wear the suit, hopefully. There's going to be so much big dick energy on set. They could power the fucking world until the world dies. It's like incredible. And in other much sadder news, Cineworld are currently making plans to shut all 127 cinemas in the UK and a further 536 in the US. Apparently this is in reaction to the news of the latest Bond film being delayed. Obviously that's over 5,500 jobs in the UK alone, which are at risk now. I mean, obviously it might be a temporary measure. They might come back once the global shitbag is finally done and over with, but who knows? I personally don't think that cinema is the best place to watch a film any longer. I don't think it has been for a long time. I think that, you very much have to police yourself in cinema screens and what have you, and it just makes for an uncomfortable situation when things kick off. And I don't think the screen is always the best. I think there are a multitude of reasons why going to the cinema isn't the best experience. So when this is all done and over with, how do you get people back in the cinemas? Stu, what would you do to improve the experience of being in the cinema?
Not have a hex bag like you have, I think. Because I, as I've said many times, I love cinema and I've never had a problem like you have. And watching Tenet about a month ago now, and in the new Cineworld experience as well, with the seats and everything, the super screen and whatever. And it was great. It was a great experience, and the screen was crystal clear, and chairs were nice and comfy, and there was no issue whatsoever. I think doing it up from, let's put it this way, it was built in 98, and it hadn't been touched at all in that time. And you could probably get pregnant just by sitting on them chairs at the back seats.
They were grim. Yeah,
I mean, it was that bad, and it needed an upgrade, and they upgraded it, and now this all happened. So I don't think you just put films out. I mean, this is what's caused it all. People thinking that just because this whole nonsense might go away, it might, but it probably won't. Yeah. And in April, we're in the same situation. What they're going to do then? I'll put it back 6 months again. And at that point, it's 18 months after it should have come out in the first place. I mean, Tenet came out. It's still there. Just go and watch it. I mean, there was no issue. I went in there, wear a mask if you want, if you're scared. Fine. Not a problem. You're not sitting opposite each other. You're not going to catch anything in there. You got more chance of getting on the bus. It was fine. And it's just everyone overreacting, cancelling all the films, and now people are going to lose their jobs. And who knows how many of these are going to open up again? It's just a joke.
Matt, even before the pandemic started, the cinema had been slowly dying, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't getting the money it was before. Does Hollywood have a responsibility? I mean, obviously, they're the ones who sell the films, and then obviously the cinema then has to charge extortionate prices on tickets. And from what I read, it's not until like a month or so after the film has been released before most cinemas make any profit on the tickets. Should Hollywood take a bit of a hit and say, you know what, fair enough, we'll sell it for 20% less? Or what's their responsibility in this all?
Should and will are obviously two separate things. I think the issue is now that the streaming market is so lucrative, it's not going to be long before we see streaming platforms be the sole providers of these A-list films, these AAA, films. My issue with the cinema is it hasn't, by the cinema I mean the locations itself. So Cineworld, a prime example, my closest cinema, it hasn't adapted to the times in terms of screening only film. It's done very little, and it has done some, because I've been to that. They've done 2 or 3 different Metallica shows at Cineworld, but they're so few and far between, and there's a real market there that they could tap into. Festivals, for example, how many people can't or won't go to festivals because of the price? But imagine if they just played footage from a festival for a day, and they, you watch that footage in the cinema, or sporting events, or just different mediums that will get people in. There's people, friends of mine, who I try, I bug to listen to this podcast, who are they're just not film people. It's absolutely fine. But you know what? They love sport and they love music and would pay money to see these things on the big screen. How big is esports at the minute? Yeah. Why not have tournaments at a cinema on massive screens? Do you know how big my hard-on would be if I could play FIFA on a screen that massive? Do you know what I mean? It'd be ridiculous, and I don't see why. I don't know what the reluctance is to, unless it's something on a pay or rights or something like that can't be worked for whatever reason. But they're going to have to adapt if they're going to have any kind of success. The thing with Hollywood is, and back to your original question, is they're under no moral obligation other than to preserve nostalgia in preserving what was the golden age of film in the cinema. I really like the cinema, but one thing I will say, let's say a film is 13, 14 pounds or whatever it is to go see, especially at the old Cineworld, as Stu had mentioned, I don't feel like I was getting the experience that was worth that money. But going the last few films I've seen in IMAX in Broad Street, Birmingham, blown away. Tenet, I didn't like the film personally, but the experience of seeing it on that screen, that noise and everything was just sensational, and that's what I'm paying my money for. I don't have a 4K TV. I've got a good surround sound system at home, but that's for gaming. I don't really feel the benefit of that for film so much. And I think it's going to be a real shame if cinema goes on its arse, but I feel it's more cinema's responsibility to adapt with the what people want, what the content that's out there.
I mean, we had the thing this weekend of the Palace game against Chelsea being screened in Odeons in London, and I've never done, apart from World Cups, I've never known football being screened in cinemas. But you think, well, why not? Especially in time when we can't even go to games now. Sitting in a kind of theatre-like experience, watching a match. I'm pretty sure that I'd pay to watch Wolves in that setting, and I don't like even watching Wolves in pubs, but things like that. It's almost like they're trying, and it's a bit too late. I mean, because like you said about things like that. Oh, what's it called? The duck ballet thing.
Swan Lake.
Swan Lake.
That's the one.
And there's the clip for socials.
Fuck's sake. Well, that anyway. That was my mother-in-law went to watch the screening of that every year, every Christmas. But do you know that that's even on there? Because I never had no idea.
Yeah, the National Theatre have put a few plays on. I've not been to one myself, but I have seen some of the plays when they've then released them online. And actually, it's quite a good experience, because if you can't get to London to see most of the plays that they put on, it gives you an opportunity to try something different.
Exactly. Imagine if they put Hamilton on there. We'd be there straight away.
Oh, all day. It'd be absolutely incredible. For me, my problem is it's very similar to Matt's. It doesn't cater to a specific market anymore. So you've got your film nerds like me. All I want is a pitch black room, silence. I just want to watch a film and enjoy the experience. But then you have people who want to go and enjoy the social aspect of being with their friends and having a laugh, maybe singing along if you're in a musical. And going to the cinema doesn't suit both parties. It falls somewhere in between. Neither party is getting particularly what they want. So maybe it is about time they start doing split screening. So they're saying, right, Mondays is if you talk, you're shot. Tuesday is you're allowed to have a laugh and join in. Maybe something like that to try and cater to what people actually want, instead of trying to please everybody and in turn pleasing nobody. Oh, and one other thing I'd just like to say before we move on to the questions, I did put it out on the socials earlier. If you can't afford to get this month's Empire magazine, there is a wonderful piece about Chadwick Boseman. That's the last bit of news. It's fucking beautiful and heartbreaking and heartwarming. It's brilliant. So on to the questions. Question 1, what are you watching? Matt, do you want to start the ball rolling?
Yes, so a little late to the party with this one, really. I started watching High Score on Netflix, a limited series about the golden age of kind of arcade gaming, really, and then the introduction of the home consoles. A little before my time, I think my first console was the Master System 2. I had an Amiga before that, but I don't really remember it, if I'm honest. There was a couple of games on it, but then my first proper console was a Master System 2. So I didn't think I'd actually take to this program very well. I've always said to Sam, my wife, that when we have kids, when it comes to gaming, I'm going to get them something like a Master System and build them up to the level that they are now, just so they can experience like what games were like before and build it up like that, purely for purposes. But the way that this program is filmed and created and edited is so it just tickles all of those nerdy, geeky computer game senses on my body. It's just like it does loads of things in 8-bit. The editing is really, it makes people look like they're in the game that are talking. It's just a really, really well made documentary series I really, really recommend. It's good to kind of appreciate the things that I enjoy now, where their origins are. Really, really excellent. And one thing I will be watching that I haven't watched yet that we talked about when we were chatting before the show, the US remake of Utopia. For those who haven't seen it, well, Utopia for me, it's in the godlike tier of TV, occupied only by Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. And I really, really, really don't want them to butcher it, but I have to watch it for pure morbid curiosity. Now, Andy, I think it was you who told me that it's pretty shitly reviewed.
It's not held up, apparently.
No, I feel like for the sake of investigative journalism, I'm going to have to watch it just to see how bad they get it. In the same way I've seen like a pilot episode of the US remake of Peep's Show, and it made me literally want to hurl myself down a set of stairs. I don't think they'll be able to grasp the same nuances that the original Utopia did, that they had.
Have you ever seen the pilot episode of the American version of Red Dwarf?
Yeah.
Oh no.
God, it's bad.
It's possibly one of the worst things that has ever been put to any kind of film at all.
Really?
It just doesn't work at all.
And before we're accused of, is xenophobia the word? Is that the one I want to use?
Yeah.
There are some amazing American sitcoms. Arrested Development is up there as one of my favorite of all time. But their grasp on British humor, it just doesn't translate. We're a far more sarcastic bunch of people, for one, and our humor is often more in not what's said but how it's said. Whereas I think American humor is a lot more in the visual, in terms of the delivery isn't quite the same. So I'm going to watch Utopia, and I'll probably get back to you in a couple of weeks and be forlorn.
I mean, the only thing that makes me tempted to watch the US version, it's Gillian Flynn, who is the showrunner / creator of the US version anyway, and she was the writer of Gone Girl and Sharp Objects. So if she's got a hand in the writing of it, it should at least be decent.
Yeah.
But obviously time will tell with that. Stuart, what have you been watching, sir?
Well, Ted Lasso's finished, sadly.
Very sad.
Talking about, well, it's not really American, is it? It's obviously American money, but it's just superb. We'll just leave that there. Yeah, there's two things. One is that I watched last night, The Social Dilemma on Netflix. That's about what social media is doing to everyone and how it's designed. I mean, it's you watch. I mean, I've talked about aliens and all kinds of shit we've had here before, so you think this is one of these conspiracy programs, but actually it's interviews with engineers who've been at Google and Facebook and LinkedIn and all these kind of places, and how it works and how it traps you in and how it gets you to like one more like and one more post, and how when Facebook put the tag your friends in photos thing, it just blew up, because then you'd have if you see that you've been tagged in a photo, you'll automatically open your phone and look at it. So then you'd be sold to the advertisers. It's really it's like you think, well, yeah, obviously this is true, but then you look at it in depth like they do. I mean, it's only about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And you think this is it's like really grubby and really horrible, and that they've got it's a lot of talking heads, but they've got like it's almost like dramatizations, but it's kind of like that kind of thing as well. So it's dramatizations and talking heads and like reenactments kind of thing, all at the same time. So it's really well made. It's really worth a watch. And it does get you thinking, is it? Oh, we really should be on Facebook all the time and checking Twitter every 5 minutes on your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
it sounds quite similar to The Great Hack, which is also a Netflix documentary based in that Facebook world. So yeah, as you were talking, I've just added that to my Netflix list. I'll definitely be checking that one out. What else, Stu?
The other one was I don't know if this is going to be in America, so Todd and everyone might have to be naughty to get it. It's a little mini series called Des. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Lee. David Tennant playing the role of a Scottish serial killer, Dennis Nielsen, who is a terrible man, obviously, And trying to go into it without ruining it for people who haven't seen it. So it's based on a book called Killing for Company, which I read years ago. It's basically he goes around picking up men, mostly homeless men, to rape and then murder and chop up. And it's David Tennant looking scarily like Dennis Nielsen. It's really, really good. And it's when this came up, I thought I don't want to see a film version because I knew the story obviously before our time, but I loved the book, being a true crime kind of weirdo. But yeah, it's a really, really good series. Only three parts, so I mean, what, 2.5, 3 hours. But yeah, it's well worth it.
Is that ITV? Is it that one?
Yeah, it was an ITV production, so it might be on BritBox. And Spitting Image as well. We've got to watch that later.
Ah, shit, yes, that's another one to add to the list. It's getting a long list tonight, I think. Okay, doke. So my choice is quick shout out for a film called Message from the King. And it's basically, you know, when Denzel did all of those B movies where he was a bad man out for vengeance. Well, it's basically the same film, but with Chadwick Boseman. It's really good fun. Like it won't tax you. It will be, you'll just sit through, plow through it. You'll enjoy it, and you'll probably forget about it the day after. But it was a good experience. Ted Lasso, as she's just mentioned, sadly finished this week. What a series that's been. But within the last week or so, I downloaded what has come to known as Netflix for horror, and it's called Shudder. And I watched a British film called Host, which was made during the pandemic, during lockdown. And it's basically 6 friends on a Zoom call, start a seance, and then all hell breaks loose. I don't get scared by horror films very, very rarely. I enjoy them, but they don't do anything to me physically. I could feel my nerves jangling at points through this, and it was the middle of the day. It's 57 minutes long. Treat yourself. It's great.
Yeah, when I told you about this, it was probably when my Judah, shout out, recommended it to me, and it was on Twitter, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go because we both watched Unfriended, and you scared yourself watching that. Yeah, and I thought this is right up your alley, and then you chickened out and watched it in daylight. But yeah, I'll vouch for this one that it's excellent.
Yeah, properly good. And the other film, which I've saved till last, this week I have watched Tenet.
Yes,
it is fucking brilliant. Like, it's words fail me at how good this movie is. I'm a big fan of Washington. I loved him in Ballers when he was playing Ricky Jarrett. He was brilliant. He's such a captivating performer. To see Elizabeth Debicki finally get a role good enough for her talents as well. Like, we've seen her in bits before, and she's always a bit part player. So it was great to see her front and centre. Kenneth Branagh, just a terrifying bastard in that film. Loved it. And obviously, the Batman himself, Robert Pattinson. He was awesome. Like, you're watching him act, and he draws you in. You just want to know what is going on. And I like the fact that right at the beginning of the film, it tells you, I think it was the scientist lady played by Clemence Posey. She says, don't think about it. And you can't, because the film doesn't make any sense if you sit and try and logically break it down. There's all sorts of paradigms and paradoxes going on. So you just have to experience what they have given you. And it's perfect. I mean, I could go into detail. I could, but I wouldn't want to spoil anything because it is such a rip ride throughout. And yeah, like the battle at the end doesn't make any sense if you think about it, but don't think about it, just experience it. And I'm one who likes to think and break things down, but I was just swept along with this movie. Sorry, Matt.
For the listeners, Matt's sitting there like a bulldog chewing a wasp. I mean, I did think that this would be one of my just me on my own kind of things. So I'm so happy that I'm not on my own again.
Listen, different strokes for different folks. Like visually as a spectacle, phenomenal. Can't deny that at all. Might have been the fact that I was deafened in the cinema by like the score and everything else. It just didn't grab me in the same way that Inception did the week before that I saw. if I wanted to watch Bond, I'll go watch Bond. If I want, this just feels like a poor sci-fi Bond to me. Like it just didn't do a lot for me. It didn't grab me in the way, and maybe it's because I wanted to understand it and I couldn't remove myself from understanding the plot very well. I just it just didn't. Yeah, maybe in a few weeks, months' time, I'll watch it again and I'll feel differently about it. But I think I'd put it at such a high level because of how much I enjoyed rewatching Inception, that I thought it was going to grab me in the same way, and it didn't. But listen, some of the things that I love, people are going to hate. Some of the things that I hate, people are going to love. So it's just one of those things. You can't please all the people all the time, can you? So
yeah. I think you helped me going in knowing that you just have to watch it. You don't think about it in any great depth. So yeah,
should that be something that we applaud though? The fact that as a precursor, you shouldn't try to understand it. Should that be something that we applaud?
I'll watch every film like that though.
It's one of those things because some films have got depth beyond what they present you, whereas some films have just got zero depth. And this probably isn't the one with the depth, and that's fine. It doesn't make it a good or a bad film if it still has that impact on you where you've enjoyed it. And I think that's all you can ask for a film, is at the end of it you come out taking something from it that you wanted. And also the scene with Michael Caine, I really like that scene with Michael Caine. And when Washington, I can't remember the protagonist, his name is, he stands up and he's about to leave and he just says, "Thank you, Sir Michael." And that was just completely Christopher Nolan saying thank you to Michael Caine. That wasn't one character speaking to another. That was the director speaking to one of his muses. And I loved that. I proper geeked out for that. It was excellent. Such a lovely little touch. Anyway, on to the next question, which is Mr. Stuart Hall.
Hello. So, nice and simple this week. What is your favourite foreign language movie? Matthew.
Thank you, Stuart. I think very civilised this evening.
There's a copious amount of Banksy's amber that I've drank all day today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, after the game earlier, I felt like alcohol might be on the menu, to be fair, but I digress.
It's been on the menu since 12 o'clock. So,
so I was going to originally, but I've talked about it too many times, I think, on the podcast already, go with something like Battle Royale or Life is Beautiful, but I seem to shoehorn those films in at every opportunity, really, when we talk about it. So one film that I want to mention as probably one of my favourite, I haven't watched it recently, and I'm going to watch it on the back of researching it for this. The Lives of Others. I don't know if you've seen that I review. So basically, the story of the East German member of the Stasi monitoring a playwright, basically. So the Gestapo, for want of a better word, monitoring surveillance on citizens to make sure that they are keeping to the communist playbook. Let's put it that way. It's a really, really heart-wrenching film, and a film that shows humanity in the worst of people. But it keeps you on the edge of your seat because the film teases and pulls you in different directions, because you follow the Stasi officer, and he doesn't know. The internal conflict with him is really, really powerful, and you don't know if he's going to turn in the people he's surveying. Is he going to let them get away with it? I don't want to spoil it because one sentence will ruin this film. It's one of those. Just watch it. It's a really gut-wrenching film that shows the true emotion of a person, even someone as evil as the Nazis or the Stasi. Just watch it. You'll really appreciate it.
Sebastian Koch in this as well, who's been in a lot of things that we've seen. He was in where's he gone now? He's in Homeland as Otto. For people who've watched Homeland.
Yeah, it's it won the Oscar.
And the Danish Girl. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it won the Oscar for foreign film or foreign language film, 2006, I think it was. It's just a really, really excellent film. Not massively rated really that highly in terms of IMDb, but it's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, audience score of 96%. I think it was I might have got this wrong now. I think it was a 2 million budget with a 77 million return as well. So in terms of a percentage of purely from brass tacks as well, it did fantastic numbers. I want you guys to watch it and get back to me basically, because I really love it.
Yeah,
it's on my list now, definitely.
List now as well. Yeah. This list is going to be. I've got a feeling this week is just going to be one where I've seen nothing, and it's all going straight onto the list. So the lives of others. So for myself, I had a few written down. I had Battle Royale on the short list because I expected you to talk about it, to be honest, Matt. Yeah, it's a great film, so no more needs to be said. I would also say Parasite, which finally won the Oscar. Don't need to go into any detail. I'm sure you've heard enough about it. It's an incredible film. I've yet to rewatch it because I'm waiting. I was going to go to the cinema to watch it when it was released in black and white, and then shit kicked off. So obviously that's been on the back burner. So the film I want to put a bit of love to is a film called Roma, and it's a film that should have won the Oscar 12 fucking months ago. It is incredible. So it's set in a time of civil war. Stu's cursing me here because I've obviously stolen his thunder.
Yeah, because I thought I was going to be clever this week. I thought I was going to get something you haven't seen.
It's an Oscar film, of course. I've seen it. Yeah, so set in a time of civil unrest within. Is it Cuba? I can't remember off the top of my head the country that it's set. And it's about a cleaner and her life and trials and tribulations. And when the thing happens it is the most devastating, heartbreaking scene I have ever seen. You feel part of it. You feel like you were in the room when it happens. And it's up there with 12 Years a Slave for the impact it had on me at full time, that it was just what an awful, awful world this place can be at times. It's beautiful. And it should have won the Oscar. Was it Alfonso Cuarón, I think, was the director of it, and the fact the Green Book won that year is a fucking travesty. Like, it's up there with the shitty Crash that won the Oscar over Brokeback Mountain. It's appalling that Roma didn't get the love that it deserves. Also, two other quick shout-outs, and both of these go to Guillermo del Toro. Pan's Labyrinth, gorgeous, and El Orfanato, which he produced, which is a Spanish-language horror, and it's gorgeous. Sorry, Stu.
I had three, and I thought, well, there's going to be at least one, and thankfully you didn't mention it. Yeah, I think Pan's Labyrinth was one of the first ones that I thinking when I thought about this question, I thought, what was the first one that I actually paid attention to? Mm. And because it's so fucked up and strange, it doesn't really matter that it's Spanish or whatever in the mystical nonsense of it all. It's just you could watch that without any context of just how visually amazing it is. Pan's Labyrinth, obviously. Yeah,
and it's a grown-up fairy tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's stunning. Some of the best visuals I've ever seen in a film as well. Love it.
Well, you wouldn't have got the Hellboy gig, would he, if he hadn't done that?
Very true, very true. And the man with the eyes in his hands.
Yeah.
Like, terrifying, but yeah, awesome.
Yeah, the other one was the one that kind of, again, late to the party that introduced me to wire work, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay.
Which, because I wasn't really a part like Asian cinema and all that kind of thing. It was all, this is all bollocks, it's nonsense. And how is this entertainment? And then I can't remember how or who took me to watch this one. But we were sitting there and I thought, this is class. And ever since then, going back into the back catalogue of Asian cinema and all that kind of thing, I've got a proper love from Crouching Tiger. So that's got a kind of warm place in my heart, so to speak.
Oh, fantastic. I've never seen it. It's been one that's been on the list.
Oh, come on.
And like other films get added and it's always been fairly low on the priority list. Maybe I should bump it up.
Have you seen Kung Fu Hustle?
Yes.
No.
Good film, though. It's not like
good things.
It's no Kung Fu Panda. Let's just put it there.
Whoa there.
That's another one I'm adding to the list. Kung Fu Hustle.
I say Kung Fu Panda.
No, I've seen that one. I quite enjoyed that.
God,
that was
I can't
Jack
remember.
Black, wasn't it?
I remember going to cinema and seeing something really, really like powerful, like a really like a proper thought-provoking film. Can't be that thought-provoking, because I can't remember what it was. But like me and my friend had the day to ourselves, and we had those Cineworld Unlimited passes, and we thought, oh, should we just make a day of this? Yeah, we will actually. We'll go see like 2 or 3 films in a row. What's on? Kung Fu Panda 2. Why the fuck not? So then we just went and watched it. Oh man! And another cinema memory just before we move on. I'll never forget walking into the King's Speech. Right, late, I might add. It was a faux pas, I know. And the overwhelming smell of talcum powder and those sweets that come in the little tins, with the like not sherbet but like a sugary thing, because it was quite an elderly screening of people, and it just smelt like going to like your grandparents' house. I couldn't believe it. And then my mate Rob, like, so he's your worst enemy, Andy. Instead of like, you take food in a bag, absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that. Instead of taking a big bag of crisps, he took 6 individual bags of crisps.
God. That's just fucking evil.
Sacrilege.
Jesus.
Anyway,
have either of you ever two walked into the wrong screening before?
Yeah, I have.
I
have, yeah. I've walked in and been like, something's not quite right here. I'm not like sat down and carried on watching. I've realised the error of my ways, but then yeah, I have done that.
I went to see, I think it was when Orange Wednesdays were brand new.
Oh,
so
yeah,
me and my cousin went to see Harry Potter, whichever one it was, I don't know. There was fuck all else on. And we went, sat down, and like the film started, and I'm like, well, this isn't Harry Potter. And it was 50 First Dates, the Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore film. So, fuck it, we just sat there and watched the whole film, and actually I quite enjoyed it in the end.
Apart from my Adam Sandler rant last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't mind that one. That one's okay.
That's one of his better ones. That and Wedding Singer are 2 of his better comedies, I feel. I don't know, it's just something about Drew Barrymore, maybe just reins him in a little bit. And
did you see that? Better. The Drew Barrymore's got her own show now.
No.
And she had, it's like the Kelly Clarkson show with that excellent clip of the Vin Diesel song on the Kelly Clarkson show.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore's got her own show, and she was interviewing Tom Green, obviously her ex-husband.
Her ex, yeah, of course.
It's on Twitter if you go and have a look for it. But yeah, it was like really weird and really nice and sweet at the same time. So obviously they've got a kid together as well, so they've got something. They have to be civil and stuff. But just seeing him with a massive grey beard, it's Tom Green.
I don't think I've seen him in anything for at least 15 years. I think that it was probably
Road Trip.
God, Road Trip, yeah, that's the one. Fucking hell, that's a bit of a flashback from the past. That one is.
You have done well, Panda.
Done well? I've done awesome.
So my question this week: what is the first film or films which pops into your mind when I say Alfred Hitchcock? Stu?
It's always The Birds, but I've never seen it.
Right, okay.
Because I was convinced that I've seen it, and for years I kept thinking, I'm sure Robin Williams is in that film, and obviously that's a completely different film altogether.
Yeah, that's The Birdcage.
Yeah, The Birdcage,
which is great, to be fair.
But I've never seen The Birds, and obviously Psycho is excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason it's always birds. I don't know why, but I don't like birds either. I think
that might be why.
Some kind of subliminal thing where like birds flapping. I don't really bother about many things at all, but birds flapping around, don't like that. Not a fan.
So what's the first film that you have seen that pops to mind?
Psycho.
Mm.
You know, it's very
legendary, that film.
It's like very cliche and everything, but yeah, it's perfect. And again, we are going to like Eating Itself, where we talk about the Vince Vaughn remake a few weeks ago, and how that in preparation of watching that, I watched the original. So when I went in to watch the newer one at the time, I got full blast of how shit it is.
Yeah, like it doesn't even. The only thing it changes is the opening scene when it's in the original, it is a camera going over the map, and in the remake, it's a camera going over the city, which was Hitchcock's. It's what Hitchcock wanted, but obviously because it was 1960, they couldn't do that back then. And obviously the masturbation scene, which doesn't add anything. It makes it creepy, but not in the right way that you want to make things creepy.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was creepy in a, oh God, are you really doing that, you fucking geek? Not a, oh, that's horrible to say. It wasn't. It was just wrong. And
it obviously led to the one of the most underrated, never talked about shows of all time, Bates Motel, which no one's ever seen.
Now, I saw the first episode, and I don't think I could grasp the fact that it was set in the modern day. It's something I've always intended to go back to once it had finished, and then I've just never got around to it.
Yeah, it's really good. Surprise. Considering the source material it's based on, you think, well, they can't possibly fuck this up. But we've seen many occasions where that doesn't really hung true. But yeah, it's really good.
It's Vera Farmiga, isn't it? Plays the eponymous mother. It's on the list, but whether or not I'll ever get around to it, who knows? Matt, what about yourself?
Again, The Birds. I don't know why, because Psycho is obviously, I would say, it'd be the top answer on Family Fortunes or something like that, or a Family Feud for our American colleagues. But yeah, The Birds, I think it's got something to do with when we were arranging the podcast, and this may shock people, but we don't ask these questions on the day. We do a bit of prep behind the curtain. I think I was in Weymouth at the time, with the seagulls at the seaside and everything like that. So that must be your worst nightmare, Stu, being at the seaside with seagulls flapping around.
I ain't bothered about the seagulls. Seagulls are fine. Seagulls are like sky squirrels. They're all right.
Sky squirrels? Well, I've heard it all now.
It's a little ones, like the little like Tweety bird things.
Like a canary will fuck you up. But a seagull, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, but if you get in a fight with a seagull, you got a chance because you got something to punch, ain't you? Whereas if you got a canary coming at you, then you can get in between things. Nah. Keep away.
Well, I mean, you didn't know this, Stu, because I do a lot of the socials, but we had a sponsorship offer from Peter, but let's turn them down now. But I'd say the best of the Hitchcock films that I've seen will be North by Northwest, and it gets done so many times in other films and TV shows as well. The scene with the plane over like the cornfield or wherever it is. Really, really excellent. Admittedly, I hadn't really seen a lot of Hitchcock's work before I went to university and studied film. But I don't think a lot of horror done in the right way would be done if it wasn't for the Hitchcock influence. Psycho, phenomenal as well. I would love to have known what his vision would be with the technology that we had today. But it's one of those who would win between Mayweather and Rocky Balboa kind of questions, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there we go. What about you, Andy?
Well, there's 3 films I want to shine a light on. The first one, I'm going to say, it's not Hitchcock, it's Jordan Peele, because the few films we've seen of him are as close to what I think Hitchcock would be now. So I'd say Get Out. Just adore that film. It's so Hitchcockian, it's beautiful, it's brilliant. But the 2, I've gone one from his British period and one from his Hollywood period. His Hollywood period, Rear Window. I think it's one of his top films, but it probably isn't one of his most fancied films because you've got Psycho, Birds, North by Northwest, which all come before it. But Rear Window is just an incredible show with how to build fear and tension within a movie. It's so well played and it's nerve jangling. It's fantastic. And the film I wanted to mention from his British period, it's a silent film called The Lodger, which I hadn't seen until I went to uni, and it stars Ivan Novello, and it's based around the London serial killer
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, that's the one. It's based around that, where women start getting killed late at night, and they think it's the eponymous lodger, played by Ivan Novello, and it's just this wonderful story that's because I've never really gotten along with silent cinema, if I'm perfectly honest. It's okay. I don't dislike it, but at the same time, it's not something I'll get my way to watch. But The Lodger is one of the few silent films that I've seen probably about 6 or 7 times. I just think it's fantastic. Just the use of acting to actually tell a story without any words.
Yeah.
When it's done right, it's brilliant. But sadly, I don't think there's enough of those films to make that genre particularly viable for me personally.
Yeah, it's
And also, like I'd heard of Ivor Novello obviously because of the awards named after him, so I didn't realise he was even an actor. So when it came up in the title card, Ivor Novello, I was like, okay, right. So yeah, paid attention, loved it. And again, it's quite creepy. It's done in sort of more of a chrome, I'd say, than a black and white style. The music to it it's really good. So you're watching when they pick something up and you might hear like a penny whistle or something with the movement. So just, I don't know, the way it marries together with the sound, it's fantastic. I don't want to go too deep into the story because I'd hate to spoil anything, but it's about a love story between the lodger and the daughter of his hosts. But his hosts think he's the killer and she doesn't, and it's how it all plays out. It's fantastic. It deserves a lot more love than it probably gets because he's British period. You've got films like Sabotage and 39 Steps, which are probably the more famous of that period. But I'd say definitely check out The Lodger if you ever get a chance.
Talking about silent cinema, when was the last time you saw Jewel?
Jewel? I don't think I've ever seen it.
Spielberg film, his first one, with the lorry.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really, it's about the lorry stalking a woman along. It's a silent film. That's pretty much the storyline, and it's like Terminator, but it's a lorry.
Right.
I'm making it sound stupid here, but it's been a long time.
It's got a 7.6 on IMDb.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's incredibly well made for something for as basic as what it is. But add it to the list.
Yeah, I've just put it on. 1971 Jewel, 90 minutes. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So, question number 4. That's you, Matt.
So, guys, I want to know your natural disaster movie. In keeping with modern events, potentially. But yes, I want to know your natural disaster movie. Stu, I'm going to give you the chance to steal one of Andy's, so go ahead.
I just love The Day After Tomorrow, and I don't know why, because it's not very good, is it?
No.
but none of these really are. This is the whole point of them. I know you can throw in Twister and or Dante's Peak and all the other ones, things like that. But there's something about the CGI wolves and stuff like that are really bad. But I've watched The Day After Tomorrow more than any other disaster film ever. And again, I don't really know why. I don't know is it really nature and all that stuff, but I'm counting it because it's fun. And then it kind of knows what it is, and it's very schlocky.
Yeah. That was almost like the start of the rise of the Gyllenhaal, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
That was the first time he really got any... I mean, it was post Donnie Darko, if I remember correctly, but that was very much the beginning of the ascent of Jake Gyllenhaal. So we can thank it for that, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
Myself,
So, Andy, what about yourself?
For myself, I've got a few on the list, obviously. Can I take Sharknado?
Well, it's a theoretical natural disaster.
Could it happen?
Yeah.
Could any of it happen? I really struggled with this because as a genre, it's not one that, like Stu said, they tend to be a bit cack. And
Because it's because it's fun. That's what you're not familiar with it.
Yeah, basically. So Sharknado for me, because it very much knows what it is, and it plays within that world perfectly fine. The world is coming to an end, and they're trying to stop it. Whereas I think most of the ones that I've seen tends to be that the world is ended, and there's nothing you can do about it. I quite liked that Sharknado was that there is a chance to save humanity. Obviously, it's dumb as shit, but Ian Ziering is brilliant in it. Tara Reid, I mean, obviously not so much in the first one, but in the second one, Tara Reid is phenomenal. I still laugh about the scene when Kelly Osbourne gives her a book to sign, and she just scribbles like a fucking 4-year-old her name, and it's like the silliest visual gag, and I don't even know if it's supposed to be funny, but it really tickles me every time I see it. The first two Sharknadoes, I do genuinely enjoy watching. It falls off a cliff badly after that, but Chris Jericho appears in one, and I think does Kurt Angle appear in one as well, if I remember correctly? So yeah, Sharknado for me.
Points.
Yeah,
There's one.
That's fine.
There's one called The Core, where they burrowed into the center of the earth to restart the core to get it spinning on its axis again. And that's, again, I think me and Gold went to watch this because I remember him. If he didn't go, I know he hates it. So, well, nice memory for you. But yeah, I've probably been to see pretty much all of them. And again, I really don't know why. Are we counting Armageddon in this? Because it's some kind of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, yeah, my choice is pretty hard and fast with the rules, really, because I was going to say Armageddon myself purely for the ridiculousness of it, and the fact that Aerosmith pulled out a banger for the soundtrack as well. And another kind of hard and fast with the rules, really. I wanted to say The Road.
Yeah.
A post-apocalyptic kind of, I didn't want to go post-apocalyptic like zombies, even though that, maybe that could, but
that takes it in another direction. I think if you had zombies, that's more horror than.
I think the road is just 2024. We all know this.
Yeah, so you both nail on the head. The genre itself, they're not fantastic films in the first place, really. Twister, it's so 90s, it makes my eyes bleed. Like, it's just I think there's a scene in the IT crowd where Moss sees a film and he goes, "Oh, it's set in the 80s." Well, I'm like, that was like 90s based films. Like, just look at them and go, "Oh, it makes my skin crawl." And again, I wanted to say War of the Worlds, but obviously it's sci-fi over kind of anything else. I love that, for rightly or wrongly, maybe guilty pleasure territory. I love that Tom Cruise War of the Worlds film. Don't know why, but I really do. But yeah, Armageddon for me, just because of I'm not a massive huge fan of just these huge blockbuster films that verge on the Americana side of it. It's so much like this is America's dick and force it down your throat kind of thing. This is how great we are, or anything like that. But Armageddon's a bit of that, but I don't mind it in this context, I suppose.
We have got a precursor to this in about a month's time, watching Knowing.
Well, yeah, there is. It's when I was doing a bit of research for this. Maybe we'll revisit this and how does this stack up against some of the films we've mentioned.
Well, we've got an end of the world film coming up much sooner than that as well, to be honest. But we'll get to that in a moment. Other films that I had on my list for natural disaster. Have either of you seen Geostorm?
Yep.
Oh, it's fucking wild, isn't it? It's so bad. Loved it. San Andreas was another one on my list, purely because The Rock's in it, and got to shout out to The Rock. One which I think probably gets overlooked because of the genre. This Is the End. James Franco, Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill. Really enjoyed that film. Like, it is what it is very much. It's a group of guys at the end of the world telling dick jokes. But I really enjoyed that. I thought it was fun. But I love Seth Rogen, so it's probably a little bit of that in there for me.
Is it a little too close to home? But Contagion, does that count in the genre?
I'd say so, yeah. Because obviously,
like a virus, as opposed to when people think of natural disaster, I think people assume earthquake, tsunami, everything. But it's it's a natural disaster in terms of a cataclysmic event for the planet, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, does that mean that if we count in that, then we count in what's it called? The Sandra Bullock one from last year.
Oh, Bird Box.
Yeah, Bird Box.
Yes. Yeah, that would be in there, wouldn't it? I quite enjoyed that, actually. I mean, it got very, very mixed reviews. It seemed to be either people adored it or despised it, and it was nothing in between. But yeah, I thought it was a good, enjoyable 90 to 100 minutes. I thought that was.
There we go. So I think what we need to do, we need to cleanse the palate with some listener questions, if that's okay with you two. I'm going to give you some quick fire listener questions.
Most definitely. Looking
The
forward
best.
to it.
Quick fire
Okay.
is the best way.
So one question we've got from David Evans of A Daft Question fame. Check them out. Really good podcast. Why does Bruce Willis only seem to do very under the radar films now? Is there a desire for Bruce Willis to appear in cinema / high profile streaming films? So I guess the question is, do you guys have a desire to see Bruce Willis in big budget blockbuster films? I haven't seen Glass. I assume he's in it.
Yeah.
Do you have a desire to see him in big films these days? Your thoughts?
Personally, no. He very much had his day, and he was excellent with all the Die Hards and Lucky Number 11 and the likes back then. He just seems to fart out straight to DVD direct now. And I think the fact that people don't want to go and see Die Hard anymore, other than Stu, I'm guessing. Like they went to the cinema, they didn't trouble anybody because they made zero money. I don't think anybody really has that interest in seeing him anymore. Part of it is down to the fact that apparently he's a bit of an arsehole, I think.
Okay.
So I think people have sort of got to that point with him where they think, well, fuck him, he's not that good an actor to be that much of a dick. That's my personal opinion anyway. Stu?
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. He's buried himself in the twattiness of what he's been coming out with. And yeah, I mean, my PSN name is John McClane's Vest. So I Die Hard, the first, so the first three, and then the fifth one, fourth, and there's two excellent ones, and then the rest are okay. But there's a lot of things that should just be left alone, and Bruce Willis is one of them for me.
Yeah,
I loved him in mid '90s and before, but not since. And there's probably a reason for that.
I think if you're on the fence about whether or not you like Bruce Willis, check out what Kevin Smith had to say about him when they worked together on Cop Out. And he just talks about what an absolute dick he was. So, yeah, apparently Tracy Morgan absolutely saves that movie. And the reason it's quite bad, even Kevin Smith says it's not a great film.
Yeah.
The reason he said it's bad is because of Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I know what you're on about. I like that film. It was good.
I love Tracy Morgan. I will watch that dude in anything. Even if he's got like a 2-minute cameo, fuck it, I'm watching it for him. I love him. He's brilliant. Did I say Tracy
Excellent.
Jordan or Tracy Morgan? Because I keep saying Jordan when that's obviously his 30 Rock character.
We did get a question from our friends at the Lunch Hour Geek Out, but we're not going to answer it purely because we're going to cover these films eventually. He wants to know who would win, Nick Cage in Mandy or Nick Cage in A Kiss of Death. But we'll want to come back to that when we do Mandy. I can't wait till we do Mandy. I think we're gonna have to might have to bump that up the list. One question we put out was, Andy answered it on the socials himself as well. Stu tried to defend a film that somebody else had put. So you're allowed to remove one film from existence like it was never made. What do you banish? So Andy, you would put Saw 2. Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, so Saw 2 for me was the beginning of torture porn becoming the mainstream. If you get rid of Saw 2, you obviously don't get the next 40 fucking shitty Saw films that came out. You don't get Hostel, which is just awful movie, badly made, boring as fuck. You also don't get stuff like Human Centipede. As a genre...
Whoa. So you're trying to wipe Human Centipede from history?
Yeah. It's terrible. It's I'll say it's not even borderline offensive. It's just fucking offensive. It's awful.
You seen the second one in black and white?
No. I gave up after the first one because it's that bad. And it's not even bad in a fun way. It's bad in this is genuinely a sexist piece of shit, and I won't watch it. So I think Saw 2. Then you just get rid of the whole torture porn.
You break
genre.
the timeline.
Yeah.
I like it. Fair enough. David Evans, Broken Flowers with Bill Murray. He loves him, but it was awful. A Daft Question would get rid of Freddy versus Jason. They believe it is just awful. Stu, prepare your case for the defence. Todd DeWitt wants to get rid of Avatar.
Because the Avatar gets a bad rap, and I don't really know why. It pushed the 3D thing at the time, and there's still to this day, there's no 3D film better than Avatar. No one, nowhere.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but if I want to watch Pocahontas, I'll watch Pocahontas.
Well, it's a poor man's Fern Gully, I thought, to be honest.
Fern Gully, the last rainforest, yes, I know. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, I've actually got an Avatar man bag as well. I love it that
Of course you do. Of course you do, Stu.
Yellow green with a black handle. Avatar man bag. It boots AVTR, so it's cool. But yeah, it's sitting over there next to Transformers.
And
I would
finally,
sorry, can I just rebut the better 3D film? I would probably say that Drive Angry 3D is better, and we will get to that film, and that's another one I am so excited to rewatch. I have a story about that film as well that we'll get to one day.
I'm gonna have to buy that in 3D Blu-ray in preparation, and now.
Yeah, love it. Sorry, Matt, I jumped in.
No, that's all right. Well, Ash Dolan, friend of the show, he's done a Jolene Lescott, hasn't he? And he's sent a text from in his pocket and by accident because he's put the Wicker Man remake.
Yeah,
he's obviously not meant to put that in. So Ash, you might want to check your settings on your phone, mate. Because obviously you didn't intend to put that on, so that's fine. But we forgive you. But speaking of borderline offensive, we're going to wrap up for the day. But Andy, you want to tell the people what we're going to be watching for our next episode?
Yeah, it follows on quite nicely from Ash wanting to get rid of the Wicker Man. So a couple of weeks ago, I bought Empire magazine. No, Total Film magazine, sorry. And it had the 20 worst films of all time. And at number 19 was The Wicker Man. The films we are watching next week, one of them is definitely worse than The Wicker Man. You'll find out. But next week we'll be watching a film called Kill Chain, and we'll be watching Left Behind. I spoke with Todd DeWitt on the weekend about Left Behind because he was the one who championed it. So, Todd, this is our conversation that we had this weekend. So I'm sat here with our first international guest, Mr. Todd DeWitt. Hello, Todd. How are we today?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's pissing down with rain, but it's a perfect film day, to be perfectly honest. So that's all I'm going to do. Sit and watch some films. So when we first started our podcast, one of the first messages we received was from yourself asking when we're going to do Left Behind. I was expecting it to be something different to what it was. So why was that the film that you wanted us to get straight into?
Because it is absolute shit. It's so bad. Surprisingly, Nick Cage isn't the worst part about that film. And my wife and I recently rewatched it, and it's so much worse than we remember.
Yeah, I mean, you messaged saying that yourself and your partner were going to be watching it last weekend, and I really felt for your wife. It's not a good one, is it?
No.
I mean, like from the... all I knew when you'd said that the name was literally the picture of the film. I'd never even heard of it before, and now I've seen it. There's a good reason I've heard of it. So, in your words, what is this film about?
Oh boy, it is about the start of the end times, according to a weird author who once read the Book of Revelation and said, "This is the weirdest shit ever. I'm gonna write a series about it."
Yeah, because I hadn't realised, but this is actually based on a novel, isn't it?
So it's based on a series. So I think there's 5 or 6 books altogether. And this is actually a remake of sort of a remake. They did a movie back in the early 2000s with
Kirk think we've
Cameron.
had it.
Yeah. It's this movie's bad, but it's so great.
Yeah, it does. It's probably not to the same level of maybe The Room, which I think has got cult status as being so bad it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to that level.
Nick Cage didn't have to do a lot of acting. He's not terrible in it, But like, if you go in with the mindset of this is a really bad horror film, changes it.
Yeah, I wish I knew that in advance. So when I was watching it, I was probably about 5 minutes in, and I thought, I'm going to love this because it's going to be schlocky as fuck. And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, okay, this is not the film I thought it was going to be. And it really does drag you down with it, I think. So what's the opinion stateside of someone like Nick Cage? Because obviously we have this perception in the UK of America enjoying these larger than life characters, and there's no one more larger than life than Nick Cage on screen. How did you feel about him over your side of the world?
Nick Cage has an interesting reputation because he's done a lot of just awful films, but every once in a while he'll have a good film. So he's got a pretty okay. He's pretty okay regarded around here. You go from this film, and then he did Mandy. I mean, that's a recent film, but that was a great movie.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. Since we started this podcast, it's been on the list to watch. So I've refrained from watching it just because I wanted to watch it fresh and then do the podcast. But I'm a big fan of Andrea Riseborough, so I am looking forward to that one.
I also think like people really just love National Treasure, and I think that that set him up because it has enough Americana in it to really appeal to all age ranges.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when we watched it, we did question whether or not it probably works better in America than it does in the UK, because it is very rah-rah America, isn't it? And it holds your country in a different light to how we might actually see it. So I did also wonder whether or not that was a bit of a national treasure of America, for, you know.
A little bit.
So how did your wife feel having to watch Left Behind again? Was she okay with it, or?
She was not. She didn't really have a choice. I'm like, listen, we have to rewatch this movie just to remind ourselves how bad it was. And yeah, she was okay with it. She had more of a running commentary on it than I did, which was pretty interesting. If they weren't so heavy-handed with the whole aspect of like, this is the start of the end times according to this book that was written, it wouldn't be that bad. Or if they put a little horror twist on it, it would have been great. Because I don't know, this movie doesn't serve a point. At the end, they're just standing there like staring around. I will say that when Nick Cage's son disappeared, I was so happy because he was awful. He was an awful actor.
Yeah.
Didn't miss him at all. I was glad he was gone.
Yeah, it did seem to take the annoying dickheads. You think, okay, great.
Yeah,
that's
right.
We're in a better world now, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the message they intended to get across, unfortunately. So thank you very much for your time today, Todd. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Anytime at all. So that's just a sneak preview of what is to come next week on the podcast. And so for this week, Stuart, would you like to say goodbye?
Don't drive angry.
Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Todd, you might be left behind after that. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, be excellent to each other.
Yes, I should be. Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
Yes.